AITA for kicking my girlfriend out after she admitted she was pretending to love me? When she said, "I'm tired of pretending to love you," all I could think was, finally, something sincere comes out of your mouth. My name is Keegan. I'm 24 years old, and I'm writing this because I'm tired of seeing stories where people let others walk all over them. I'm sick of reading tales full of excuses like, maybe he'll change. I don't think I was too harsh. You see, sometimes the right thing to do is to set a boundary and remove someone from your life when they don't value you. And that's exactly what I did with my ex, Kara, who is also 24. I want to tell the story of how I reached the point of having to throw her out of my apartment after she told me, with icy coldness, that she was tired of pretending to love me. But the story doesn't start there. It begins much more simply, almost innocently. Currently, I'm studying business administration and working the night shift at a 24-hour diner in my town. My routine is simple but intense. I study in the morning, work at night, and then do it all over again. At first, it was hard to adjust my life to this rhythm, but I got used to it. Having clear goals means a lot. I always had two: to buy my own condo and to get myself a Mustang Shelby. My goal was to have them both before I turned 27. These goals were my compass. My entire life revolved around them, and for a while, I thought it was best for me to stay single. No relationships, no distractions. And that's when she appeared. I met Kara at the university. She was in law school, and from the first time I saw her, I knew I was drawn to her. Not just physically. She had a different aura, a mix of confidence and lightheartedness you don't often see at our age. She was disciplined, responsible, always carrying a binder full of documents with highlighted passages. That caught my attention, but what really won me over was her entrepreneurial side. Kara had a small dessert business, something that started as a hobby, but which she had turned into a steady source of income. She sold custom cakes, brownies, cookies, and other treats. But it wasn't just the product, it was her attitude. There was passion in what she did, a vision. She invested, reinvested, and planned. She talked about her business as if it were a company destined to grow. And I deeply respect people who have goals and work to achieve them. Even though I had promised myself not to get into a relationship, the truth is, Kara shattered that idea very quickly. I didn't approach her to flirt at first. I was content to just watch her from a distance, like someone looking at something they want but aren't sure they can have. Until one day, we ended up at the same coffee shop near campus. She was alone, studying, and I had stopped in for a coffee before work. In that moment, I felt that if I didn't talk to her, I would regret it. I approached her with a simple excuse. "Hi. I think we study in the same building." She looked up, gave me a calm smile, and said yes. And it all started just like that. A simple, natural conversation with no pressure. We talked about our classes, our schedules, the difficulty of balancing school and work. She told me about her business. I told her about my goals. The conversation just flowed. When I left that coffee shop, I knew I was in trouble. I was falling for her. A week later, we ran into each other again and talked more. The next week, we were already talking every day, and 2 weeks after that, we were practically inseparable. I didn't make it official right away, but I felt we were on the same wavelength. Everything happened naturally. She became my girlfriend, and for months, I believed she was the one. Our relationship started strong, stable, with this energy of growth. We talked about projects, the future, how we wanted to evolve. She supported my goals, and I supported hers. We even planned to take courses and workshops and discussed ideas for starting a business together. It was one of the most productive periods of my life because I had someone by my side who also wanted to move forward. Everything was perfect, literally perfect, until Delaney, Dakota, and Daphne showed up, 3 girls from our university who were studying tourism. If I had to describe them precisely, I would say they were the exact opposite of what Kara was when I met her. They partied on a level that was hard to explain. I'm not talking about going out occasionally. I'm talking about partying in the middle of the week, skipping class to go day drinking, spontaneous road trips, and all-nighters. I don't know how, but they were always involved in some event, some outing, some crazy antic. The leader of the group was Delaney, the most extroverted, the most impulsive, and also the one with an advantage the other two didn't have. Her father was the dean of the university. This meant that no matter how many classes she missed, how many assignments she turned in late, or how many complaints the professors made, nothing ever happened. No absences, No warnings, no consequences. I knew who they were. Everyone at the university did. They were the kind of students who treated college as just a backdrop for their social lives. They weren't bad people, but they were irresponsible. That's why I was so surprised when, overnight, Kara appeared to be their friend. I don't know exactly how it happened. One day she told me one of them had bought her desserts. The next, that she had helped the group with an assignment, and suddenly, they were in her Instagram stories, her group photos, her conversations. By the time I realized it, they were already part of her routine. But the problem wasn't the friendship itself. The problem was how that friendship transformed her. At first, I didn't mind her going out with them. Kara remained responsible. She continued to work on her business. She kept studying with discipline. But gradually, I started noticing signs that I didn't like. First, the more frequent outings, then the midweek parties, then arriving to class tired because she'd been out all night. After that, canceling plans with me because the girls needed her. And that's when everything started to go downhill. The first time she canceled, I understood. The second time, I accepted it. The third made me uncomfortable, and when it became a habit, I knew there was a problem. She had changed her routine, her energy, her focus. What used to be passion for her business became excuses not to bake. What used to be afternoons of studying became spontaneous outings with her new friends. What used to be punctuality became lateness and forgetfulness. I tried to talk to her calmly, but she always responded with things like, "I'm just relaxing. I deserve to have fun too. I don't want to live stressed out all the time." None of those statements were a problem on their own. But what was a real, serious problem was her constant dismissal of me. Not out of malice, but out of priority. I had stopped being a partner and become a space she could move or ignore whenever it was convenient. One night, for example, we had planned to have dinner after my shift. It was her idea because she said she missed me and wanted to see me. I finished my shift, exhausted, and went to our meeting spot. She never showed up. I called. Nothing. I sent texts. Nothing. 3 hours later, she posted a story from the middle of a party. I just sat there on the curb outside the diner, watching that story and wondering at what point everything had gone so wrong. And that wasn't the only time. My patience was wearing thin, but I hadn't blown up yet. I was still looking for excuses because the person I had known wasn't like this. The girl I admired would never have acted this way. But the weeks went by, and she drifted further and further away from everything that made her special. I didn't want to date a copy of the 3 party girls. I had fallen for someone completely different, and the worst part was, she didn't even realize it. Everything really fell apart the day she canceled an important date we had planned for weeks to go to a surprise party her friends had organized. That day, I understood I was no longer dealing with the same person. The Kara I had met would never have done that. And that's when the story really started to go off the rails. Up to this point, anyone might ask, why do you say you're tired of being a doormat if you put up with all that? Weren't you one too? And to be honest, yes, they're right. I thought the same thing about myself. It was obvious. I was acting like one. I was clinging to an idealized version of Kara because it was hard to accept that someone with so much potential could change so drastically, so quickly, and for such insignificant reasons. I wanted to believe it was a phase, a moment of confusion, something temporary. But the truth is, I was blind. I held on to the absurd hope that she would realize everything on her own. And that self-deception cost me dearly. The night she stood me up, I confronted her. I didn't yell, I didn't insult her. I was just exhausted, tired of waiting, of believing that it was my job to be understanding, patient, flexible. When I finally found her, she was leaving a party with her friends. She was euphoric, done up with makeup, laughing as if nothing had any consequences. And when she saw me, she looked surprised, as if she had forgotten we had plans. I confronted her directly. I told her it wasn't right, that she couldn't keep standing me up without any notice, that the bare minimum was respect. She reacted defensively, saying she was tired, that I was trying to control her life, that I was exaggerating. I told her everything calmly but firmly, and she just exploded. "We were having a bad night," she yelled, as if I were the bad guy. I stayed silent. In the end, she said she was leaving, and I didn't stop her. I live in a rented apartment near the university. I specify this because I haven't bought my own yet. It's small but comfortable. She used to stay over at my place almost every day. When she left angry that night, I didn't follow her. Not because I didn't care, But because I felt that for the first time, the right thing to do was to let things take their course without forcing anything. I thought the silence was necessary. The next morning, very early, I got a text from her. A long message full of apologies. She said she had acted badly, that she understood she had been sidelining me, that she was losing her balance, and that this wasn't the person she wanted to be. She asked for another chance. She said she loved me, that she had neglected me without realizing it, and that she didn't want to lose our relationship. I accepted. And for 2 whole weeks, Kara went back to being the person I knew. I don't know if it was a sincere attempt or just a period of guilt, but she had completely changed. She stopped going out with the 3 friends, got back to her dessert business, and started studying seriously again. She sent me messages every day like before. She seemed focused again. She even talked about projects and goals as if she wanted to make up for lost time. During those 2 weeks, I believed we were going to be okay, that all the chaos had been just a momentary lapse. I believed she understood the hurt she was causing. I believed her efforts meant something. But then, something happened that completely opened my eyes. One day, while I was resting before work, I was scrolling through social media and saw that Daphne, one of the 3 friends, had posted a meme tagging Kara. The meme said, "When you see a guy hotter than your boyfriend but you're loyal, so you start a fight with your boyfriend so you don't feel too guilty." And Daphne had tagged her, writing, "Haha, you're terrible." My reaction was immediate. A sharp jolt in my chest. It wasn't jealousy or insecurity, it was outrage. That meme said much more than it seemed. It was a direct provocation toward me and a direct insinuation about her. And the worst part was that her friend had posted it like an inside joke, as if she knew something I didn't, as if everything was a joke behind my back. I knew Kara well enough to know she controlled her tags. She approved or rejected them. And this wasn't the first time Daphne had posted things hinting at infidelity, but it was the first time she had tagged Kara in something so explicit since she had supposedly changed. I sent her a message immediately. "What is this? Why are you being tagged in this?" She took a while to reply, and when she did, it was brief. "Calm down, it's just a meme." That indifference, that trivializing of something so obviously disrespectful, burned me up inside. I replied, "Just a meme? Since when is that funny? Can't your friends make funny memes without talking about cheating?" She got offended immediately. Her tone shifted as if a switch had been flipped. Suddenly, we were back to where we were weeks ago. "You're exaggerating again. Here we go again. You always say the same thing." And the argument started. I reminded her of all the times she had stood me up, all the times she had canceled to go to parties, all the emotional weight I had to carry while she was playing at living 2 lives. She said I was taking everything out of context, that I was suffocating her, that I was misinterpreting things, that she had a right to have fun. I was no longer calm. I felt the conversation was going nowhere because she refused to admit anything. Then, in a moment of silence, when I thought she might finally reflect, she opened her mouth and said without a tremor, without hesitation, "The truth is, I'm tired of pretending to love you. You bring me nothing but headaches." My world just shut down. For a few seconds, I didn't know how to react, not out of sadness, but because of the brutal clarity those words brought. She had said it coldly, like a final sentence, as if she were confessing something she had been holding back for a long time. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I simply replied, "Perfect. Then get out." She was shocked. Her face changed completely, as if she didn't expect me to react with such firmness. Just like that, so easily? "You're not going to apologize or anything. You're just going to let me go." I couldn't hold back a sarcastic laugh. "I'm not letting you go. I'm kicking you out." Her expression turned to pure disbelief. It was like she couldn't process the idea of being removed from my life, as if she was used to people always giving in to her. "I thought you were going to beg me for forgiveness. That's how it was supposed to go." And she started to cry. Loud, dramatic tears, as if she were the victim, as if she hadn't just said she was pretending to love me. I stood firm. "You're not going to manipulate me with tears. Get out now." She came closer, tried to touch my arm. Her voice changed completely, becoming soft and shaky. "Baby, calm down, we can talk." It was impulsive. "I love you. I really do. I need you." But I couldn't hear it anymore without feeling disgusted. A part of me had just broken in that moment. And the other part, the one that had been silent for weeks, finally spoke. I'm done with this crap. I should have broken up with you the moment you became friends with those dead-end girls." Her eyes widened, offended. "What about our goals and our future?" And that's when I buried it for good. There are no more our goals, no more our future. We each go our separate ways. Leave now, or I'm calling building security. She kept crying, but her tears had a different sound now, one of real desperation. I don't know if it was out of love, fear, or ego. Probably ego. She gathered her things with trembling hands and walked to the door. Before leaving, she looked at me as if she expected me to stop her. I did nothing. I just repeated, "Go," and she left. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in a long time, I felt silence. A real silence, a silence I needed. After that night, everything ended for good. There were no messages afterward, no attempts at reconciliation from my side, and she never tried to contact me directly again. We simply ceased to exist for each other. I thought it would be difficult seeing her at the university, but it wasn't. I saw her, of course, but I no longer felt anything that would make me reconsider my decision. The first time I passed her in the hallways after the breakup, it was strange. She was walking with her friends, all dressed up, laughing as usual. When she saw me, she looked down and her face became serious. As for me, I just kept walking as if I didn't know her, not out of pride, but because I had no reason to interact. That chapter was over. To me, she was completely gone. Over the following weeks, I would sometimes see her on campus, sometimes alone, sometimes with Delaney, Dakota, and Daphne. She never tried to approach me, never tried to start a conversation, not even a hello out of politeness. It was as if our past had become a movie that we had both turned off at the same time. Even so, from the way she walked, from how quickly she would look away when our eyes were about to meet, you could sense a certain tension, maybe shame. But I no longer tried to interpret anything. That part of my life was finished. With time, I heard things about her from classmates. Not because I was asking questions. The university is small, news travels on its own. I learned that she had stopped her dessert business, that she no longer baked every day, that she wasn't taking big orders anymore. She only did it from time to time as an occasional hobby. That detail surprised me more than I would have thought. It didn't make me happy. In fact, it left me with a strange feeling, a mix of sadness and confirmation. She was good at what she did. She had real talent, discipline, patience, everything needed for a business to grow. And yet, she had practically given it all up. I also learned that she remained immersed in the party scene as if it were a lifestyle. She had completely adopted her friend's routine, going out on weekdays, spontaneous events, lunches that turned into evening parties. It wasn't a rumor. I saw her myself leaving the tourism building at hours when she had no reason to be there. I saw her in party clothes in the morning. I saw her arriving late to class, clearly hungover. She had chosen a path that didn't align with goals, with building something, or with discipline. Nothing we had once shared. There was no longer any sign of that mature, ambitious, and organized version of her I had met in that coffee shop. It was as if that part of her had completely vanished, swallowed by a lifestyle that was emotionally bankrupting her. And that's when I had the ultimate moment of clarity. I had dodged a bullet. Whether it sounds dramatic or not, in my case, it was literal. If I had stayed with her, if I had given in one more time, if I had normalized the red flags, today I would be stuck in a relationship that would have destroyed my peace and my goals. She was no longer aligned with anything I wanted to build. And the worst part was, she wasn't building anything for herself anymore either. I'm not happy to see her in this state. I don't feel superior either. I feel a sense of sorrow, not like someone looking down on her, but like someone who saw her true potential and watched it be wasted. I saw her hands work for hours to deliver perfect orders. I saw how she managed her finances with clarity. I saw her eyes light up when she talked about expanding her business. All of that existed. It wasn't my imagination. And seeing that version of her get swallowed by an empty routine only proves to me that she herself decided to abandon who she was. The truth is, not everyone is capable of balancing a social life, work, and long-term goals, and that's okay. But what's not okay is the damage you can cause in someone's life when you completely lose yourself and drag your partner down with you. Imagine investing time, energy, and love in someone who, overnight, abandons everything you admired about them. It hurts, it's confusing, it feeds self-delusion. It makes you believe that if you wait a little longer, if you're a little more patient, that person will go back to being who they were. But they don't always come back. Sometimes that version dies for good. Months later, when I think about her, I don't think with pain or anger. I think with reflection, because this story isn't just a breakup. It's an example of how a relationship can become destructive without yelling, without aggression, without an obvious betrayal. Sometimes destruction comes disguised as indifference, irresponsibility, and incompatibility you try to ignore, and that can hurt just as much as any concrete betrayal. So, here is a message for any men who might be going through something similar. Having a girlfriend is great. In fact, a partner is not an obstacle to your goals if you are with the right person. But there is a huge difference between a relationship that adds and one that subtracts. And I'm not talking about money. I'm not saying she has to support you financially or fix your life. I'm talking about something much deeper and more essential: peace, stability, motivation, tranquility, and genuine emotional support. That's what a partner should bring you. That's what being with someone means. If your girlfriend is constantly causing you stress, if she's emotionally draining you, if she's pulling you away from your goals instead of closer to them, if she's stealing your energy, if she brings you more confusion than clarity, then she is not the one. You are not with the right person. And not because she's a bad person, but because she is no longer aligned with you or your path. Sometimes, we insist on holding on to someone who no longer wants to walk by our side. Sometimes, we justify red flags that are obvious incompatibilities. Sometimes, we invent improved versions of reality just to avoid accepting that we are no longer part of the life that person wants to build. And without even realizing it, that turns you into an emotional doormat. Someone who puts up with everything in the hope that things will go back to how they were. I was that person. I also believed she would find her focus again. I also thought her behavior was temporary. I also convinced myself that I just needed to wait, and I almost lost sight of my own goals. The truth is simple. When someone wants to be with you, it shows. And when they don't, that shows too. She chose to follow another path, a path that unfortunately took her away from everything that gave her value. She lost her discipline, lost her passion, lost her vision. She let herself be dragged down by friendships that had no interest in evolving. She allowed herself to be swallowed by a lifestyle that offers only immediate gratification. And even though it's not my responsibility to save her, I can say that watching this downfall from a distance leaves a bitter taste. She had real potential. She had a future. She had structure. And yet she chose the easiest, most chaotic, and most comfortable version of herself. The version that only requires presence, not effort. The version that demands no commitment, only companionship. The version that doesn't push her to grow, only to stay busy. That's why I don't hate her. I don't miss her. I don't mourn her. I just feel pity for the waste, because I know who she was, and I know who she chose not to be anymore. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.